Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to do my first impressions of Maison Ikkoku by Rumiko Takahashi. This is the perfect edition or collector's edition or whatever you want to call it, put out from Viz. This is obviously an older Rumiko Takahashi series that was, I think it's 15 single volumes long, and was completely released by Viz in single editions many years ago. Those are way out of print. It was also released in floppy, like comic book chapter kind of editions way back in the day. I've seen those a lot at local comic stores and stuff. I don't know if it was ever completely run in that edition or if they stopped running it that way and then just switched to regular, like, single volume book editions. But if anybody happens to know, I'd love to know if you know the answer to that. This edition is really, really nicely done. You can see you can see the texturing on the cover. It is kind of embossed with the name. The side is very kind of sleek and nice and plain. And then the back, at least the first two volumes have the same, like, just dog picture with the name on the cover of the back cover. So I've only read this first volume, so this is all I'm going to speak about, even though I do own volume 2 as well. If anybody happens to know, this seems to be a 1.5 volume length rather than a 2-in-1. Viz does that sometimes, especially if they're mirroring, I believe is it Kanzenban? There's a certain edition type in Japan when they do, like, different editions of manga that we will get, like, almost complete copies of released here. And they did that with Master Keaton. So this seems very similarly formatted. So I believe this is 1.5 volumes, but I could be wrong. It could be 2 volumes. I'm not completely aware of that. But anyway, this is one of Rumiko Takahashi's slice of life manga. It is not an action series like Inuyasha or any kind of fantasy twist like Ranma 1/2 or Mermaid Saga or anything like that. This is purely slice of life, and I have never read this before. I've read Inuyasha and watched it many times. I've read the first, newer edition of Mermaid Saga as well. But Maison Ikkoku is one that's been on my mind for a long time, but I've just never had the opportunity to check it out. So, I've also read One Pound Gospel, but this is about a young man named Godai. He is college age, but he failed all of the entrance exams the first time, and so he's desperately trying to get into college. And he lives in this rundown, apartment sort of boarding house situation with a bunch of other families and people, and it's quite loud and rowdy. The people that live there are not necessarily respectful of each other's personal space, and that sometimes people want things to be quiet. And so it's not necessarily the greatest environment for studying, but he's also not a good student to begin with, so he uses that as an excuse as to why he keeps flunking his exams. He basically is constantly saying he's going to move out, and then, lo and behold, this beautiful woman named Kyoko shows up and says, "I'm the new manager of this apartment, or this boarding house." And so she is going to be living in the boarding house, and obviously she is in charge of it. And so all of a sudden he's, like, super excited to live there because this beautiful woman has moved in. And so it's basically just the shenanigans of all of the housemates and the budding romance, I guess you could say, between Kyoko and Godai. At first, I was very... I like Rumiko Takahashi, so I was fairly certain I was going to like this. But I know that some of her comedic works can get a little bit repetitive. And so, the first few sort of chapters, they're all kind of like... It's an overarching story, but they're all kind of like funny little, chapters and whatnot. the first few chapters that went by, I was like, oh no, is this whole thing just going to be like ridiculous shenanigans, and it's going to get repetitive real quick. But then the kind of latter half of this volume really did focus not only on the comedy but also on the romance aspect, and so that piqued my interest because I am a fan of romance series, so I was very excited to see that so early on. We are already kind of getting into that sort of territory. Now, this series is 15 single volumes long, and so it's, I'm sure that the humor and the romance potentially is going to be dragged out for quite a while, but this is just one that I won't binge read or force myself to read. I'll just read it when I want to laugh and read it when I want to enjoy Rumiko Takahashi's art. I'm very excited that we're getting this beautiful edition of this story because, like I said, it's one I've wanted to read for a really long time. There are, unlike Mermaid Saga, which had like a ton of color pages, I think there's only really the one at the front, the couple that are at the front here. The rest of it is not in color, which I guess is fine. But yeah, the art is very much Rumiko Takahashi. There's quite a lot of dialogue you can see, but I mean, it's all just daily sort of conversational dialogue, so it's nothing really deep or something that's going to take you too long to read. But I mean, this series is all about the characters. We've got obviously the beautiful manager of the house. We've got Godai, who is this slacker college-age dude. You've got his next door room neighbor, who is this guy who he's a pervert. He's peeking on the gorgeous girl in the next room. He keeps putting holes in the wall, like just human-sized holes in the wall, so that he can go between his room and Godai's room. You've got the beautiful, she's like 20-something, who just walks around in her underwear all the time and doesn't care about anybody. And then there's a mother and a young son. So there is a kid in this too. It's a nice blend of ages in this manga. And then there's some outside characters who don't live in the house but are affiliated with the folks who do. And so it's just a lot of fun, is really what it is. And I think that this one, more so than things like Urusei Yatsura or Ranma 1/2 or something like that, like this one seems to appeal more to me as a comedy series, and more of a slice of life sort of thing. Yeah, I do like the way that Rumiko Takahashi does romance. I know it can get a bit ridiculous, especially in something as long as like Inuyasha, but One Pound Gospel was great as a comedy romance, and I am looking forward to where Maison and Ikkoku goes. So, if you've read this, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If there are any other Rumiko Takahashi series that we don't already have or that are not currently available that you are hoping we get a reprint or just a license in general, let me know. I'm personally rooting for One Pound Gospel. I love that series and I would love to own it. And those Viz singles are out of print. So, yeah. Thanks for watching.